Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today on this of latest of our webinars. We're going to be talking today about time. You cannot manage time. You can only manage what you do with your time. Moving. So this time is your most valuable asset, especially if you're running a business. You're actually going to be needing every single minute that you have to use in the most productive way possible, because we only get the time that we get. We're not going to be able to make more time for ourselves, so we have to use everything that we've got in the way that we've got it. It is our most valuable asset. It's the only one we can't replace. So how many hours are you working every day? How much of your time is wasted? Are you actually focusing your efforts on the things that you should be doing? So during this webinar, I'm going to share with you a little bit more about how to get the most out of your time, making sure that you have the time for the things you want to do, and looking at where you should focus your time most, and how to not get pulled into things that you shouldn't be doing. So my name is Angela Turton. I'm Senior Partner with Action Coach at based in Oakham in the Midlands, and we look after business owners who all the time, one of the biggest problems we see with business owners is that they do not have enough time to get things done the way they would like to get them done. They often underestimate what they can do in the next year or the next 5 years, but overestimate what they can do today. And I'm sure you've seen it, the people who have to-do lists that have 20 or 30 items on it, and they say, yes, we're going to get all these done today. Well, they're unlikely to do that. So what happens is they get demoralized. They keep looking at this huge long list of things that never seem to get done. They never get to the bottom of it, but it just keeps going on and on. But conversely, what we see is when we say to somebody, well, where would you like to be in the next year or the next 5 years? They often are thinking too small, because they don't realize that actually 12 months, you can get a lot done in 12 months. And we'll be looking at time and how much you can do that. And if your goals are big enough, and we did webinars on goals a little while ago, if your goals are big enough and your plans are big enough, then you can certainly get a lot more done in 12 months than you think you can. But we're going to start a little smaller than that. Actually, we're going to go bigger. We are going to look at how much time you have in your life. So this is a tool that we often use to show people that actually they've just got to get on with it. They've got to get on with life because there's not that much time left, which sounds awful. But actually, once you take that on board, you can really, really start to use your time in the most efficient way possible. So each of these squares represents a year of your life, and there are 80 of them. So that sounds an awful long time, actually. But when you think about the things that you do, if you're working on your business, quite a lot of that's already taken up. For the first 18 years of your life, you're probably at school. Certainly here in the UK, you're at school until 18 now. Then you might have 4 years at college. If you retire at 65, then you've got 15 years in retirement. If you take 5 weeks holiday a year of your working time, that's actually 17 years worth of holidays. If you take 1 week sick per year of those 43 years working, that's 3 years. So as you can see, it's starting to compress more and more. So you've only actually got 23 equivalent years to actually get on and fulfill your dreams. So I think it just shows you how important it is to manage this time, this scarce resource we have. And when we're looking at a day, as I said earlier, people overestimate what they can get done in a day. We've only got 24 hours in each day. Everybody is only gifted with 24 hours a day. And quite often, 8 of those are spent in bed. So that's a third of our time. We then spend maybe another 8 hours eating, exercising, maybe commuting to work each day, maybe an hour of TV and an hour doing our hobby. So whatever that is, you probably only got 8 hours left at work. And by extension, if we then look at this and say, actually, we're spending a third of our time sleeping, then of that 80 years, 26 of them are spent in bed. Or of the 23 that we have left after school holidays, retirement, etc., we have 7 years that we're in bed. So actually, we're decreasing more and more the available time to get on with our dreams. So we have to accept that. There's not much we can do about it. You know, time has its own agenda. It does what it likes, and it's not going to ask you, and it's not going to give you any more. So let's accept that that's the situation. And then we say, right, when we know what the situation is, we're not going to get angry about it. We're just going to use it efficiently. And that's what we're going to try and get today. There are actually only 2 ways that you can get more time. The first is that you're going to buy time. And now this is not some scientific film, a science fiction film rather, but it's getting an effective team together so that you can buy somebody else's time. So they come work for you, they're giving you their time, you're paying them, and you can use them to get stuff done. And the other way is to systemize the routine elements of your work, your job. And what this does is this stops you having to think every time you do something, how do I do it? Why am I doing it? What's the best way of doing it? You know, how much, whatever questions you have to ask around that task, because you know that you've thought about it in the future. Sorry, you've thought about it in the past, and that means that every time you get to do that task in the future, you will have a system for it and it will become very quick. So you're saving yourself all of that thinking time. So given that those are the only 2 ways that we have, let's look a little bit at what 4 skills are required to use your time wisely. So we have 4 skills. The first of those, which we're going to cover in a moment, is analyze. Analyze what you're doing with your time so that you know what you are using. Then we're going to look at planning. How do we plan the day or the weeks so that we actually get things done that we need to get done? We're going to look a little bit about delegation. As I said, using somebody else is the only way you're going to get more time in your life. So we're going to look at that. And then we're going to look at self-management and what do you need to become to be able to use your time better? So how do I need to act in order for me to use my time in the most wise way possible? So let's look at the first of these, which is let's analyze our time. So what we do with most of our clients who are in this situation where they cannot find time, they're finding it very difficult, the first thing we ask them to do is to keep a time diary, a log of what they're doing. We ask them for 2 weeks to write down what they've done in their time. There's no judgment at this stage. All we're asking them to do is just write it down. So as soon as they start another task, they write that down, that they've started that task, and they've moved, and then they were able to see at the end of the week what they have spent their time on. And it's important that you do this as the first stage because we all kid ourselves about what we spent time on. We all think that we're working really, really hard. But actually, when we come to do this time study, we find that sometimes we have spent time doing things that we didn't need to do, or we actually are working really hard, and that's great. I can remember having to do time diaries and time logs when I was an accountant, and you had to do your timesheet for billing purposes. And when I left um, working for somebody else and I set up my own practice, I thought that's great. I don't ever have to do a timesheet ever again because I was going to be billing my clients on fixed bills, which was a very, very legitimate way of doing things. I knew how long everything would take. But actually, I found that I had to go back to doing a timesheet in order to make sure that I was making money on all these jobs, but also to make sure that I was using my time in the most efficient and effective way. And actually, that I kept that up. So I didn't just do it for 2 weeks. I kept it up because for me, it was a very, very good way of controlling my time. So we ask our clients to do this time study for 2 weeks, and then we look at what it's showing us, and we will categorize what you have done. Again, there's no judgment here. It's simply, this is what is happening now. Because the judgment will come later when we work out whether or not we're happy with what has happened. So we've worked that out. We know where we're going. So we will work out, and when we're looking at what we're doing, we're working out what the current hours we've worked for every week have been. We're looking at what the 3 biggest chunks of time are and what hours we've spent on each activity. So if in your 2 weeks you spent a lot of time on sales, we'll know that. If you spent a lot of time on the finance function, we again will know that. And if you spent a lot of time with clients or in the operations of your business, again, we'll know that. So we then know how you are spending your time, which we will use on the next stage. Now, as a business owner, you have probably got a lot of hats that you wear. You're probably at least doing all of the 9 blocks that you see there, but you'll probably have others that you might be doing. You know, HR is very important when you're a leader. You're probably spending some time in that. You're spending some time as finance director trying to work out where the money is going. You're actually doing your job as a technician in your business, and you might even be running around delivering the product at the end of the day. So you're doing all of these different tasks. And what we've done when we've done the time audit is we've actually going to be assigning the time that you spent to all these jobs. But there'll also be other elements that you'll pick out when you've done your time audit, such as how many hours did I get lost in social media? And it's so easy to do that, isn't it? You go on specifically to reply to a Facebook comment on one of your posts or a LinkedIn message that you've had, and then you end up getting sidetracked and stalking a competitor through LinkedIn, or you're ending up looking at pictures of cats because they've taken your fancy. So whatever it is, it's easy to do, and we all do it. But we've now found out that we do it. So you've got your information now. And what doing the audit does is going to, along with the skills fund matrix that we'll show you in a minute, is going to allow you to work out who your next hire is. So if I'm going to be buying more time, what does that time look like? Who do I need in order to use that time efficiently that I'm going to be purchasing. So the second stage is the fun skills audit. And what this will show you is well, you probably already know, but this is an objective way of measuring it. What you enjoy doing and what you don't enjoy doing. And what needs a high level of skill to do and what needs a low level of skill to do. And if you've got something that you really don't enjoy doing, and actually doesn't need a lot of skill to do, you know that it'd be fairly easy to hire somebody to do that job for you. If, again, you don't enjoy doing it, but it needs a high level of skill to do that job, then you know that actually that's going to take some time. It's not going to be an easy hire. So when you've tracked what you're spending your time on, you're going to plot these into the fun skills matrix. And there's just a few in no particular judgment against these. Your own skill set will be completely different to whoever the business owner is that this is modelled on. But you can see we've also allocated the time that we've spent in that time. So now we've identified the things that it doesn't really make sense for you to do. It could be that you're spending a lot of time in the finance manager's role, 10 hours in the week, because your skill, you don't have the skill. It requires a lot of skill to do this job, but you aren't good at it and you don't enjoy it because you're not good at it. And if that's the case, you probably need to be thinking, you know what, this needs somebody else to do it. And again, administration, you know, it doesn't require a lot of skill, but you're not really enjoying it that much. But maybe it's easy, and maybe that again could be something that you could pass on. But actually, you are really enjoying doing the sales. It's only 4 hours, so maybe that's something that you should be doing. You may be doing more of. So it's working out where your next team member comes from. Plotting on a grid like this, the different jobs that we identified in our audit means that we can then work out what we need to do. So this is the analysis part of the job. This is where we're looking at our time, our analysis, work out what we're doing, will give us so much more information so that when we then start our planning, which is next, we really have that information on our fingertips, and we know who we are going to be buying time from. So it's a very, very powerful set of information to start looking at your options. Okay, so the next skill, the next of the 4, is planning. Planning is vital. We do it for efficiency. It gives us higher motivation, and it also makes us more effective. So we have something in Action Coach we use, and we call the frog sheet. It's after the book by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog, where he says you have to do the most unpleasant thing first, or the thing you're most dreading. And we've turned that round a little bit, and we say that's the most important thing for your business. So you start with that every day. But what this is more important for is actually the act of planning. So it doesn't matter whether you use a frog sheet, whether you use Excel, whether you use a diary, whether you have it on a notepad, whatever you're going to use, it's the act of planning that is important. So we need to plan as much as we can. In Action Coach, we actually start with the end in mind. So we'll be looking at where you want to be in 5 or 10 years' time. We'll then bring that down. So, okay, That's a little bit too far, but it gives us our long-term goals. It gives us our vision and a direction of travel. We'll then bring that right down into looking at our 1-year goals, what we think we can accomplish in the year. And as I said, quite often we underestimate that. We'll bring that down into 4 90-day plans. These are our growth clubs, which we run quarterly, because 3 months is a very, very good time to be looking at, actually, I can plan 3 months and I know roughly what's going to happen. Obviously, the ones that we did in December, we had no idea what was going to happen to the country in March. And actually, we were doing our growth clubs monthly because it was so uncertain. But 3 months is usually, in normal circumstances, a very good time to actually be planning for. Within that, those 13 weeks, we can then pull that down into weeks. So we've then got our 13 weekly plans. And then we can pull that further down into days. Now, you might not want to do that at the stage where you're doing your 90-day plans. But what you'd do is you'd then every day look to see, okay, what's the task for this week? What are the tasks for this week? When am I going to do that? And you might decide that actually Friday night before you go home, or Sunday night, quite a lot of people do their planning on Sunday nights, and they sit down and they work out what they're going to do for the rest of the week. And what that does is it actually allows you to put the important things in your diary before anybody gets to you. We also recommend that every night you actually sit down and plan the next day. And the reason we're saying do it before you go home at night is twofold. The first reason is that we would like you to be able to think about your day. And that's difficult if you're doing it the next morning. So at the end of the day, you review the day that has just gone. What went well? What wins have you got? What are you celebrating? What are you thankful for? What do you need to do from today that needs to be done again tomorrow? So we will plan before we go home. And the second reason we do that, I don't know how about you, but quite often if you're working in an office or a business premises which you're sharing with other people, as soon as you walk in the door in the morning, people are asking you questions. You know, they'll come up to you, have you done this? What do you think about that? Will you do this for me? And before you know it, it's 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock before you've actually had a chance to sit down and think, what did I want to get done today? So if you've planned the day before, you will know that you've got this important thing you have to do before anybody else can steal your time. So the night before, you sit down and you plan your day. What am I going to do? And almost all the time, you will have one thing that needs to be done that will drive your business forward. And it is that one thing that you probably need to be doing first. So that's your frog. My own business coach, he says to me that he likes to get his frog done by 8 o'clock every day. Now he gets up ridiculously early, but he does get a lot done in the morning. So he gets his frog done by 8 o'clock. Quite often he gets it done earlier. That may not be possible for you. It may be that you need to hang out till 10 because your frog is speaking to somebody. But we make sure we get that done first. Don't leave it till the last minute because something will happen and you won't get it done. And then you've got all your other tasks that you need to do today. And we will come on to those in a minute, how you decide what you're going to be doing. So once you've got your frog sheet, you then have a very easy way of you just do it. Whatever's on the list, you just do. And that really takes away the stress of trying to work out what to do. You don't miss things. You've planned. You're a lot calmer. So things get done in a better way. So let's manage our tasks properly. So what we do is we would write down everything that needed to be done. Now, this wouldn't have to happen every time, but as I say, if you're planning for the week, either on the Friday night or the Sunday night, you will write down everything that needs to be done in that week, and you'll probably have got that from your 90-day plan. Once you've written everything down, you will then start to categorize it. So you'll have, and if this type of categorization doesn't work for you, find your own. It's important that all these systems work for you. So A, it absolutely has to be done today. B, it would be good if it got done today, but it's not absolutely critical. C, it could get done today if I have time. D is delegate, and E is eliminate. It's no longer important. Once you've worked out that this is what you need to do, you can then categorize them and rank them. So you look at all your A lists and you say, right, this is more important than that. And you're just going to say, okay, of all my A's, 1, 2, 3. And then you have you can then start putting those into your daily plan. So it may be that actually your A2, sorry, no, I don't know where I'm going with that. A1 and A2 is going to be the ones that you need to do most today. So I'll get those done. And then I'll fill in with the B's and the C's. It may be that your D's, you need to spend time to delegate them because they may not be stuff that you need to do, but they might be fairly urgent. So you might have to work out when you're going to delegate that. So that'll be in your plan as well, that I need to talk to so-and-so in order to delegate. Now, this sounds a little overwhelming, and a lot of people that we talk to do have a lot of problems with overwhelm in that they just feel they have too much to do. They feel like everything is on top of them and they do not have a way of coping with this. So this is the way that I would recommend you do. It's fairly easy, but what we try and do is take out the stress that can be caused when people are feeling overwhelmed. People are often feeling overwhelmed because they don't know how to choose what to do first. So we have a system. We dump it all out. Get a blank piece of paper or a blank Word document or whatever it is you want to dump on, and then just dump it all out. Write it down, everything that needs to be done. Don't just one-liners, just a couple of words to say what it is that needs to be done. And then go away from your desk for a minute. Leave it there, walk away from your desk, go and get a cup of tea or whatever it is that you can do to get away from your desk. And then when you come back, you then cross out everything that can wait. And giving yourself that little bit of a break will enable your brain to come back a little bit fresher and be able to see the things that can be done, can wait. And then you'll have a few things left. So you then use the rankings we discussed earlier, write them down again, what needs to be done. And then because you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling stressed, we're not going to think about anything but those things that absolutely need to be done today. And if there's more than 5, you've probably got your rankings wrong, your categorizations wrong. You need to go back and think about that. So you're going to rank them. What's the most important of those 5 A's that I've got? And then, as I said, go away from your desk again, give yourself a little bit more break, come back, sit down and just get on with it. You just do the first thing on the list. And then once you start doing things, you will end up doing more things because it whole thing builds momentum. You've got a list of things. You do the first one. It feels so great when you tick that off. You do the next thing. That gets done, and you tick it off again, and again you feel great, and then you start building momentum in the things you need to do. And it's amazing how once we start dropping into that I am a doer mode, that the momentum will build. And as you're planning in this way, your effectiveness, your efficiency will actually improve because you're actually looking at each task carefully before you even start. So hopefully that has given you a really great reason to get planning. I don't care what you plan on. I don't care if it's Outlook or if it's a frog sheet or if it's a piece of paper or if it's your diary or if it's a calendar. You know, just make sure you plan somewhere and that you actually write it down. It's something that is a journey. So keep trying. If you don't do it one day, that's fine. You'll just make sure you do it the next day. So delegation. Now we've talked about delegation a few times through this. We've talked about how you're going to be buying more time. And as businesses grow, they will become very limited if it's only you. You can't grow beyond what you physically can do in a week or a day or a month. So in order for businesses to grow, you have to bring on team members. So you have to start buying time. But there's an art to delegation. And you need to make sure that you delegate properly, or you will end up with all sorts of problems and you will end up just losing time. It will cost you time if you don't do it properly. So when you are delegating, you need to think. There's 3 different things you need to think about when you're trying to decide what to delegate. So the first thing is to ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? So if I delegate this task to my team member, what is the worst that could happen? And that would depend on a lot of things, on your industry, on the skill of the person you're delegating to, on the task that you're trying to delegate. If, for example, as when I had the practice, I had tried to delegate a tax return to one of my junior members of staff, the worst that could happen would be a complete and utter meltdown. She wouldn't know what to do. The tax would be wrong, and if she managed to file it, then we would lose that client. So that would be the worst that could happen, and therefore I could not live with that. So that's the second question: what is the worst that could happen, and can I live with that? Now, if I was going to delegate maybe a bookkeeping to somebody, then the worst that could happen is probably that we had to redo it again. We might lose time. And I could live with that. And then we've got to look at what the cost of not delegating can be. And we can look at this a little bit deeper in a minute. But actually, we're comparing the cost of your time against the cost of whoever's time you've bought in, of your team members' time, and the cost per hour. So is it going to be okay for you to spend the money of your time, what your time is worth on this task, or is it going to be better for somebody who's cheaper to do the task? And that will obviously depend again on what the task is. But there's also not just the time spent, but the opportunity cost of you doing that task. Because if you are doing a task, if, for example, you are doing the bookkeeping or the admin in your company, then you are not doing something else with those 8 hours of working time. There may be other things you could be doing that will earn you more, and we will talk about this in a minute. So once you've looked at that, you then have to say yes or no to delegating. And the other thing is to look at why you're going to delegate at all. So we've alluded to this time. You know, you've only got the time that you're given. And if you want to have more personal time, you will need to grow your team. You will need to have somebody else helping you. The more time you have in your business available, the more you're going to be able to do, the more you're going to be able to achieve. And you won't be able to grow, as I've said earlier, without this ability to use other people. If you are delegating and delegating effectively, then the efficiency, you will grow the productivity of the company, because other people can do things. If it's only you that can do things, then your productivity will be way down, and actually everything has to wait for you. So you will be a bottleneck within your company. So being able to delegate will help you to improve those areas. Your staff will thank you, because they will be able to grow, they'll be able to develop, they will learn new skills, and they will be able to advance in their career. And the more responsibility that they take on, the easier it will be to run your business, because you're not on your own, you're not doing everything. And as they become more responsible and more able to do those jobs, you can start leaving it to them, and you're not having to make all of the decisions. So I said about cost and how much is it going to cost you. So it's very interesting to get business owners to look at your effective hourly rate. And this is something that we like to do if a business owner is working all the hours God sends, but has a reluctance to pay out for other members of their team, because they're seeing it more as a cost to the business. But actually what they're not seeing is the fact that they are worth more doing something else than they would be doing a job that they can easily delegate. So as I say, in a week we only have 168 hours, and only 40 of those are probably spent at work if you're working 5 days and not working at the weekends like most of our business owners are when they start with us. So we've looked before, and when we did our audit, at what we're spending our time on, and we're looking to see what the value of that is. Now, if we're spending our time doing the administration, that's a low skill job, then the value of that is very low. But actually, if we're thinking about how we're going to grow our business, most business owners will be thinking of selling their business in the future, or getting a passive income from their business in the future. So if we look at selling your business in 5 years' time for maybe £5 million, the work you do now will in the future earn you £5 million. If you're not doing that work that will grow you to £5 million so you can sell your business, then you will not reach that. So if you're not doing the work now, you're not going to reach this time later. I saw a great post recently on LinkedIn, and it was talking about investment, talking about Usain Bolt, who ran a world record for the 100 meters in under 10 seconds. And now he's earning such a lot of money from those 10 seconds because he beat everything. So he's only raced very, very short periods of time. So if we look at his hourly rate for the time he raced, it's ridiculously high. But actually, he's got 20 years worth of training and investment in training to get to where he is so he can earn his money now. And that's a bit like a business owner. We have got to be putting in the time now in order to earn the big bucks later. So if your business is not doing those things that cannot really be passed on to anything else because it's to do with your business, your goals and your value and building your business, you will not be able to get to that stage. So looking at, if you can, probably can't see this very clearly, but we've got a list there of jobs and how much they're worth, starting from things that will be taking money out of your bank account and not giving anything back, like hanging out with negative people, taking drugs, avoiding problems that need fixing, hiding, basically. You've got those that will earn you a little bit of money, so they're really worth something, that you'll get something, but actually they could be done by somebody who's earning only £10 a week. You may or may not agree with those things that are under there, but when you're looking at this, it's the concept. You have to get this concept in mind that not all tasks within your business are worth the same amount of money, and therefore those jobs that you need to do, if it's a job that will get your business to the next level, you need to be doing that and outsourcing those things that are only going to be cost you a small amount of money and that can be done by other people. So how much are you going to be worth every year? And are you building a business or are you selling time for money? So I said earlier about delegation and making sure you have to do it efficiently or it will not save you time. So we are definitely going to ask you when you're delegating not to just abdicate. This is a process that you need to go through. It's something you need to think about, and you can't just say, oh, I'm bored of doing this task now. Here you are, Jim, you do it. Because Jim doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't know how you've done it. He doesn't know what to do in any situation. So he'll muddle through and do his best, but he won't do it the way you'd wanted it done. And quite often we see this in our business owners. They've done that, they've given it to so-and-so, and then they turn around to us and say, yeah, I tried to give that away, but it didn't work because Jim just made a mess of it. Well, Jim made a mess of it because you, the Mr. Business Owner, forgot to do it properly. So clearly define what your policies are around this piece of work. Make sure that the person you're delegating to has a framework that they can work within. And that may be a level of, it may be a question of, if this happens, you need to talk to me, or if the cost is going to rise above this much, check in with me. Clearly defined set of policies that you've got in place. They need to have the skills and training. If you are going to delegate to somebody, you need to make sure that they have the skills they need to do that job. As I said to you earlier, if I tried to ask one of my juniors to do a tax return, she would not have been able to do it because she was not at that level yet. She didn't have the necessary skills and the necessary training to do it. So we need to make sure that if we're delegating a task, we're delegating it to somebody who has the skills and response and training to do it. You need to give them the responsibility to take the action required. So you need to make sure that they understand what is required and that they are owning that particular action, that they understand that they have got to do something about this, and they are going to say to you, I will get that done. And added to that, you have to give them the authority to do that. because it's no good asking them to do something and then hampering them, because actually the person they need to speak to won't speak to them because they don't have the authority. I don't know how many of you have been trying to speak to your bank on behalf of somebody, or when you've got a joint account, when you've got a joint gas bill or something and it happens to be in the name of your husband, they won't speak to you at all. You have to get your husband to give you authority to speak to the gas man, even though you're the one that does all the bills. You could see that came from a personal experience, can't you? So yeah, you've got to give them the authority. They have to know that they can ask to do this. You have to tell them when they need it. You have to tell them what you need, what outcome you need from it. And then you have to give them proper feedback. And when you give feedback, make sure that you are giving it in the positive, negative, positive way of giving it. So they don't, all they hear is, you've done it bad, you've done it bad. You start with something really good they've done, you then tell them what's wrong, and then you tell them again something positive that they've done. Really, really good way of giving feedback if you don't want to demotivate your staff. Quite often our managers will say to us, my door's always open, come and speak to me if you've got a problem. But what this does is it means that we don't necessarily think of the answers ourselves. So a better way of saying it would be, if you've got a problem, think of 3 solutions and then come and talk to me, because I know that you've thought this through and we can have a proper discussion instead of me sitting there saying, well, what do you think? So completely open door policy is probably not a very good idea. Keep control. Once you've delegated something, review it and give feedback. Moving on to self-management, what do you need to do to manage your time effectively? Well, there's actually 4 things you need to do. You need to work out what you're going to do. You need to work out when you're going to do it. You need to know how you're going to do it, and you'll need to know what you need to become, what disciplines you need to have in order to do that. Now, we've talked about this in the planning exercise, but it's something that you need to be able to bring to yourself. What do I need in order to make me better at the planning? Now, I don't know how many others of you have set goals that you want to achieve and then done nothing to make them happen. Got caught up in daily life, letting your dreams and goals slide. It's really easy to do, and even easier to do it in a time of uncertainty. I used to identify as a procrastinator. I am getting better. And one of the things that helped me was watching this TED Talk by Tim Urban of Wait But Why, and the pictures you see here come from his blogs that he is now doing. But his TED Talk was really, really good. If anybody wants to really feels that, yes, they procrastinate, go and listen to his TED Talk. It is fantastic. So what Tim Urban says is that you are there, you're the rational decision maker, and you're thinking, I've got these goals, I'll make these decisions. What you've also got is you've got your instant gratification monkey who lives in your brain with you. And your instant gratification monkey is, like it says on the tin, only interested in the here and the now and the what is happening. What I want to do now, let's get excited, let's have fun. And so quite often, the instant gratification monkey can take control of the wheel of your life. So you end up going off and doing all these things that are great fun in the here and now, but actually don't lead you to your goals. And also in your head, you have the panic monster. And the panic monster is the only thing that the instant gratification monkey is afraid of. So as soon as, and he is only woken when you have a deadline. So you have a deadline coming up, like an exam or something, and the panic monster wakes up and it scares the the monkey away so that you, as the rational decision maker, can take control again. And in high school, it all works perfectly because there's lots of deadlines, things set by your teachers and set by the exam boards and all sorts of things that keep all this in balance. But as soon as we leave school and we're having to think of it ourselves, actually quite often there aren't the deadlines for the important things in our lives. There might be deadlines for the urgent things, but not the important things. So we have to find a way of managing that. If you've got a project where the rational decision maker is in charge, it will look something like this. It will all be planned out evenly and the work will happen. There'll be no stress. Everything will happen as it should. But as soon as you've got where the gratification monkey, instant gratification monkey is in charge, what will happen is that he will be off doing his fun things, steering you off doing that until the deadline is so close that the panic monster wakes up, in which case you've got a huge amount of work to do in a very short amount of time. And quite frankly, it will all turn up and be very, very badly written or done. Very few of us can pull all-nighters to get a really decent quality piece of work out. Some people use this as a way of managing their instant gratification monkey, in that they put on individual deadlines. So these are, so they will artificially, the project's due at the end of September, and they might have an artificial deadline in place all the way up until then. And what this does is it will wake up the panic monster, the rational decision maker can take control, and you will end up getting to where you want to be. The problem with this is it's completely high stress. You are lurching from panic to fun, to back to panic, back to fun, and it's really not good for your health. So we need to try and work out how we kept our gratification monkey down. And actually what did it for me was the thought that I'm not going to allow anybody else to make those decisions for me, that I am in charge and not this strange little monkey that lives in my brain. So the consequences of allowing your monkey to take control of your life is that actually your monkey lives here in the not important and not urgent stuff. So as we saw earlier, if you want to get these things done, you need to be working on the important and not urgent work. The panic monster lives here. So if you allow these two creatures to take over your time management, you will never get anything done that will drive you to your goal. And actually, we need to be working at 60% in this period of working on our business, doing the urgent but very important stuff. The second thing that helped me was a default diary. So I planned what I would like to do. This is I've also heard it be talked about in terms of planning for energy. So if you're naturally a morning person, you can get lots done in the morning and then you save your easy tasks to the afternoon. Sometimes people have a slump about 4 o'clock, and that might be the time that you do your social media or you do anything that doesn't involve your brain working too hard. If you're very chatty, 11 o'clock, you might think, actually, I really want to talk to people. That's the time to be making your sales calls. So you're planning out your day as to what you want to do every day. And then you're transferring that into your diary or your Outlook or whatever it is, so that those things happen when they should happen. What this does is it allows us to do the things we need to do first, the really high importance stuff, but actually we make sure we decide when we are going to be doing those important but not urgent things that will be the only things that will move our business forward. And we will delegate those things that are highly urgent and not important. So hints for success. This is an incremental progress. It is a journey. I am still on this journey. I'm still learning. But it is something that if, as we go through, as we take the tools, we will get there and we can get to a much better planning stage. Start now, no better time. If not now, then when? And just take it step by step. Maybe start with the audit and then move on to the next stage. Start planning your day, and think about how you are delegating. We're up. We've run out of time, but if you so that was we are just on time, is what I should say, in a seminar on time. But we are here. If you schedule on the importance of something and not the urgency, then you probably never get to the urgent, because you'll get yourself in such a good state of everything is done that needs to be done well before it becomes urgent. I have 5 minutes. If there's any questions, please pop them in the question and answer box. I'll attempt to answer them. If you enjoyed the seminar, could you please leave a review on our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter? If you have any questions that we don't get to, then could you email me at email me at the address on the screen, and visit our website for any further information of what we're doing next. So that's it. Perfect timing from me. We are now just coming up to 3 o'clock. So I wish you a very productive next couple of hours till the rest of the day. And I hope to see you on a webinar or a seminar when we're back face to face very soon. Thank you very much for coming.